Good morning. As we continue our walk through Holy Week, this morning I was reading in the 13th chapter of the book of Mark. It is a chapter that takes place within Holy Week, and it's a strange chapter. It's where Jesus is talking about seemingly the end of the world, as he talks about the temple being destroyed and all of the horrible things that happen, the Son of Man being raised up on clouds, and all of these weird things. And his disciples certainly don't really understand what he is talking about. And we struggle even today to understand what was he talking about. But we do know that part of what was going on was Jesus was trying to help the disciples know that by the end of the week, their world was going to be rocked in a way they couldn't imagine. Because Jesus was going to die, and die in a horrible way. And he also was looking a little further out than that as well. He was thinking about the destruction of the temple, the actual temple, in AD 70, 30-some years later. And he's trying to get the disciples ready for when the whole world would be rocked again. In AD 69, Rome went through 4 different emperors, 4 different ones in that same year. At the very end of that year, when Vespasian was now emperor, it was his son who was ravaging Jerusalem and who destroyed the temple. And not only did the destruction of the temple mean that the Jewish religion changed forever, it went forever from being a religion about a place, about the temple, to being a religion about a people. It also changed the Christian religion, for that was when Christianity and Judaism made their break, and that great monotheistic religion, Judaism, became 2 great monotheistic religions, Judaism and Christianity. And Jesus is really trying to help his disciples recognize that when our worlds get rocked, when events outside of us, political events or world events or natural disasters happen, we still can recognize that there is so much hope. And we see that in 2 different ways in the 13th chapter of Mark. Part of the way we see that is Jesus says, heaven and earth may pass away. Your world may get rocked so much it seems like nothing is the same as it was before, and yet my word will stand forever. He warns us, don't look to false prophets and realize that in those times false messiahs are going to come up and they're going to say, I have all the answers. I'm the one that you need to follow. And he says, don't do that. Don't go after them. Beware of them. It is my word. Look to me during those times. In so many ways, we are doing that now. I hope that you're able to do that. I hope that, in a sense, these devotions are helping you. Look to Jesus Christ during these times and know that even in times when our world is being rocked, he is with us. As he tells the disciples at the Last Supper in the Gospel of John, in this world you will have much trouble and even much persecution, but take heart, for I have already overcome the world. And so we take peace and comfort from that. But Jesus also says that during those times when the world is rocked, he says to the disciples, you are going to see the Messiah in the clouds, and he will send out his messengers, and he will begin to gather in all those who are his. And oftentimes we think that what Jesus is saying here is telling us about the second coming. But in fact, he is referring to the book of Daniel, and he is referring to the Messiah, the Son of Man, being lifted up into the clouds, returning to the Father, not returning to the second coming to the earth. And in a sense, Jesus is predicting the ascension when he ascends to God the Father. And as he predicts the ascension, he also predicts, my messengers will go out. You are to go out from Jerusalem into Samaria and Judea and to all the ends of the earth. And I begin gathering my people together. And we're in a part of that right now in this time in our lives. And so this odd section in the 13th chapter of Jerusalem for his disciples were for them to recognize that when he died at the end of that week, that wasn't going to be the end of the story. And then in 70 AD, when Jerusalem was torn apart, brick from brick, and the temple was torn down, stone from stone, that also was not the end, but that he was still with them and he still had a plan for them. And so the 2 things I want us to take from this today are, first, that we are to look to Jesus at times like this, to fall on our knees before him and pray, to look to him for comfort and hope and peace. and also that this is the time that we are called to be the church, to be those messengers who go out. You may have seen a few weeks ago, I posted on my Facebook page, and a number of other people did too, a quote by Martin Luther during the time of the plague in his era. And he said that he was going to stay at home during the plague so that he wouldn't accidentally get infected by it and then go and infect someone else, which sounds obviously so relevant. And yet he said, however, if I am to get this plague, and if I am to perish from this plague, that fear of getting the plague will not prevent me from caring for my neighbor. And I will care for my neighbor, and I will love my neighbor, even though that might put me in some jeopardy and some danger. And I think both of those things are so relevant for us. Coming out of the 13th chapter of Mark, coming out of Martin Luther in his era, and now for us in this day. We will stay home. We will do those things that we need to do to not get ourselves infected, and particularly not to infect other people. But we also will make sure that we do not respond in fear. That any way we need to reach out and care for our neighbor, we will do so. And that we will be the church at this time, just as Jesus called on his disciples to be the church during those times. And so with both of those encouragements, hopefully there in your hearts, I remind you, as I've been doing each day as we've done these devotions, that how thankful I am that God is with us. Amen.